It's no secret that inflation has been and continues to be on the rise. However, we're getting reports that Americans are delaying retirement. So let's get some reporting on that and then talk about it.
Money Watch. What does retirement look like in 2026? For a growing number of Americans, the answer is work.
Yes, please.
Nearly 1/5 of all adults 65 and older are currently working or looking. That's the highest in decades. Many say having a job isn't a choice, but a necessity. Kelly O'Grady shows us they face rising costs and a Social Security check that doesn't quite go far enough.
Sleeping in, relaxing, and seeing the world, what many of us aspire to in our golden years.
I tell you, the whole Social Security construct needs to be reevaluated, tweaked, and modified and modernized. So that's a whole segment within itself.
But for Mindy Friedman, who's almost 70 years old, she's out the door at 7:30 a.m. for her 2-hour
That's supposed to be the golden years, yes? Golden years.
commute to work.
I walk to a bus, and I take a bus to the Long Island Railroad and take that to Penn Station, and then I take the subway, and then I walk about 10 minutes to my office.
Mindy is an administrator at a medical office. She's also a widow, and she says retirement, for now, is simply not an option.
What I take home from Social Security is about a third of what I need. So I need another 2/3.
She's gathering Social Security and still working. You know, most senior citizens, once they get to authorized senior citizen age, they go ahead and call it a day. But this young lady is still working while getting Social Security. Wow.
To live the way I'm living.
The average American on Social Security receives $2,071 each month, but they spend on average $1,684 on housing, $572 on food, and $367 on healthcare monthly. That's a total of $2,623, which is $552 more than Social Security.
Rising costs are on my mind, and they're just going to go higher. You have to eat, you have to have health care, but when you retire, you don't only want have-tos. I'd like to enjoy my life.
Mindy isn't alone.
I must be objective. We are all, results of what we've done in the past. This young lady's situation, obviously, I have no idea, but, hopefully she was investing in some type of retirement account. I have to remain objective, in her younger years to kind of try to set up and plan and build for this moment of reaching the blessing of older age, 70 plus.
Nearly half of retirees who return to work cited financial necessity as their primary reason. And by 2030, the number of workers aged 75 and up is projected to grow by 96.5%.
At that age, you're supposed to already have the goose. You just need you already have the golden goose, so you're just living off the eggs.
After 40 years as an administrator,
at least that's the play. That's what you would like. That's the ideal situation.
Assistant Helen Quochi found a second act. She started working at CVS in Connecticut, where she's been for the last 18 years.
I never thought I would get a retail job. I always thought I'd be sitting at a little desk with my cup of coffee and just on my computer. But this is really nice. You're more active and you see more people.
Like Mindy Friedman, she relies on additional income because Social Security doesn't cover all her expenses.
For most people, Social Security, including myself, is not enough to live on. We own a home, we have cars, and we like to travel. Without working, I couldn't do all these things.
Another big benefit? Health insurance.
My husband...
I think everyone knows that Social Security is not enough to live on. That's why we all plan and do things to where that is not the only thing we're using or income we have coming in to survive off of.
It's a very expensive medication. By working at CVS as a full-time employee and paying for health insurance benefits, we are able to get his medication at a reasonable cost.
As more older Americans find themselves back in the job market, competing against younger candidates, Catherine Fisher from LinkedIn says the advantages of age are often underestimated.
The older generation has, so much experience that they can bring to the table: communication, adaptability, leadership, and those are skills that you acquire over time.
For Mindy and Helen, there's no retirement date circled on the calendar, just the
Okay, let's advance this. If Minnie and Helen are doing this to just keep busy, you don't want to just sit home and just be idle. If they're doing this just to keep busy, that's a different story. But they're doing this, which I think they are, out of necessity, or at least what they said, then that's problematic. That's where, we got to maintain objectivity and balance. They may have not planned in the past to put themselves in a position to live out their golden years a little more comfort to where they won't have to have to work.
next paycheck and the one after that.
You don't know your end date. If you knew your end date, you'd know how much you needed to live month to month.
I plan to work forever unless, some physical or mental reason I can't work.
Now, some older workers worry age discrimination will hinder their job search, but many U.S. companies do have programs specifically for mature workers. For example, CBS believes talent is ageless and says more than 4% of its workforce is actually over 65.
All right, so
I believe the talent is ageless part.
Yeah,
I agree.
we agree with that. No doubt, Gail.
But it is hard when I see older people working like at DoorDash who are doing it because they don't have a choice.
Yes.
That's heartbreaking. I was going to say that's heartbreaking to me, as opposed to people who are over 65 that really still want to work, and it brings them great joy.
And that's sort of, I think,
See, that's exactly what I was saying, what Gail just mentioned. That's the difference between the two. If you're doing it because you have to, then your heart goes out to you. But if you're doing it just to keep busy, keep the juices flowing, then there's nothing wrong with that. We applaud you for that. And thank you for adding your expertise and your mentorship to the younger generation on these job sites. I've worked at retail, and, you always have the older folks there, and you laugh with them and all that good stuff, and kind of keeps them going. But, yeah, all good on that, on that front. But to advance the conversations for the younger folks under my voice, please do what you got to do to put yourself in a position, invest. So when you're living out your golden years, you only work when you have to, not because you're only working because you want to, not because you have to.